Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 8 of Storm from the Ashes, written by Mirwa Ayadil and art by Lucas Wernick. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoy this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. So with that said, this issue opens with Storm flying high in the sky saying, "I am Storm, mistress of the elements. Ever since I was a child, you have spoken to me like a mother whispering sweet words into the ears of her weeping little one. I am grown now, mother, I am a child no longer. These storm gods have hurt you, but by my power, I make you whole again." With that intro out of the way, we then pick up in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil with Tony telling the Black Panther, "She did it, don't worry, I'm sure your anti-cloud seeding cannon did something too." So to that, the Panther stated, "We worked on the cannon together and it was your idea." And then Black Panther went on to say, "Wanna go say hi to Storm?" To which Tony shoots back and said, "Perhaps another time, I'm in a hurry. I have a great evening planned with Emma Frost." So following that lighthearted moment, we then jump over to Storm and Thor's interaction. And during that interaction, Storm said, "The cremated remains of the pilot and his devourer. Dr. Voodoo as a necromancer should be able to distinguish the remains so the pilot can be laid to rest with his family." So as Storm continued to gather the ashes, Thor went on to tell Storm, "Whatever she is doing to prepare Midgard, do it quickly. Because during my travels I have learned a great deal about our kind. Before I and even before Zeus, hell before any of the storm gods, there was another in the dimension of manifestations 1 billion years ago. And this person's name was Hadad the First. He grew so mighty that he wove eternity as his cloak, forged death into his war club, the Phoenix Force was his armor, and infinity was his shield. So of course, none could defeat him but one, the one above all. So as the man descended down he was depicted in a shining golden light as he said, 'Creature, what have you done to my children?' And with a great display of power, Hadad was defeated. But Hadad will return in days to come, and with him, a horde of rock storms." Then Thor went on to say, "A civil war brews across Pantheons, storm gods against storm gods. A thunder war. Those who seek to stop Hadad and those who seek to hasten his return rage against one another. The storm gods who attacked you, I do not know which faction they belong to. But I am certain they will be back when you least expect them to. But when they do, armor up, unsheath your blade, and summon me with this feather. And together, we shall make them rue the day they made an enemy of Storm." But despite Thor extending his aid, Storm rejected it and said, "Thank you, Thor, but when next I meet my attackers, they will be the ones who will need to summon help." And with that statement, Storm took off. Following that, we transition 3 days later, back in Storm's sanctuary with the goddess performing yoga with a narration saying, "The warrior our universe has chosen to fight in its stead trembles and cold sweats not for the battle to come against oblivion, for she fears not the looming threat of the thunder war, but at the summons of her nation's government. Storm the goddess shudders. Like sharks to blood, like bees to sweet nectar, the government only beckons when a grave error has been made and the day for reckoning is due. After all, the greatest weakness of the spectacular is bureaucracy." With that explained, we then transition over to the Federal Bureau of Investigation in DC with the goddess being teleported in by Manifold, and as my boy prepared to leave, he let Storm know that he has a bad feeling about this. And then he went on to say, "If you change your mind, just give the word and we will have an army standing with you. Say the word and we'll kindle a second Krakoan age, one that is not announced by a whisper into the mind of humanity but by deafening thunder." To this statement, Storm replied with, "They'll have to work harder than this, if that is their goal. Because every inch of this nation, of this planet, is as much ours as it is theirs." So with that said, Storm started to walk away as she told Manifold to keep the sanctuary safe while she is away and to also make sure he keeps MAGGOTT out of trouble. Which was going horribly wrong as MAGGOTT was running a battle royal in the middle of the sanctuary. And by the looks of it, he had a powerhouse lineup ready for battle. This lineup consisted of Gentle, She-Hulk, Juggernaut, Big Bertha, Strong Man, MAGGOTT, Armor, and the Abomination. So with that said, we transition back to Storm's meeting as the narrator said, "While MAGGOTT has often wrestled with restraint, Storm's struggle with claustrophobia has been a tale as old as time. Storm is the host of the physical embodiment of our universe. Her need for space and dreading the lack of it is expected, if not predictable. Interrogation rooms thrive on this fear, with walls that close in on hope and a sense of judgment. But not this one. This room was designed to make Storm feel small, minuscule, and inconsequential." Now with that said, Special Agent F.B.I approached Storm and said, "Hello, I would like to ask you some questions." Behind the two-way mirror, we have an independent observer from the Office of National Emergency Agent Lundquist. But I'm sure you could already sense him with your powers. So with the introductions out the way, this agent then went on to say, remember, at any point during this questioning, the Fifth Amendment is always available to you, so do not feel pressured to give him an answer at all times. If I stood the risk of a 5-year sentence in a supervillain correctional facility, I would choose my words carefully too. However, your answers or lack thereof will be considered during the course of our investigation. Lastly, I'm originally from a planet with a more nitrogen-rich atmosphere, so pardon me if I sometimes inhale from my nitrogen tank while we discuss. Shall we begin? So with that said, the agent let out a cloud of smoke as he asked his first question, saying, "What are your emission policies from the Storm Sanctuary?" To which Storm opened her briefcase and said, "The Storm Sanctuary was built by Tony Stark and Shuri to emit no greenhouse gases. And I have the certifications issued by S.H.I.E.L.D. here as proof. The hover thrusters during the day also emit a light identical to solar rays, so we never impede anyone's access to sunlight. We've seen far too much of how poorly the powerful and the wealthy treat the masses. We continually do our best to not make the same mistakes. The planet, the animals are all," but before she could finish her statement, the agent cut her off and said, "Are you a fugitive? You are famously a former thief on the streets of Cairo. You wear it like a badge of honor. So I ask you, have you faced punishment for your past crimes? Do you see the need to submit yourself to a working legal system?" Now with the second question out, Storm answered by saying, "I am happy to provide you with answers. However, my relationship with the Egyptian criminal system is not the prerogative of the United States of America." So with that out there, the agent wasn't too happy with her answer and countered with, "I can play that game," and proceeded to ask, "I will need a report of your activities within the last 6 weeks. Which she did, as Storm went on to say, "The Impossible City reports and files my missions with the Avengers, but I did bring over full reports of my solo undertakings." But regardless of the information provided, the agent went on to say, "This is very impressive, carrying out this many heroic missions within 6 weeks. The lives you have saved will be eternally grateful. However, I would like to know more about the activities where you were not the hero, but the victim. And I'm not talking about your recent visit to Doomstead. You've made it abundantly clear that whatever happens outside of this country is beyond our jurisdiction. So let's start off easy. Have you been kidnapped within the last 6 weeks while you were in the United States of America?" Now to that question, Storm answered truthfully with a no. Now this answer caused the agent to reply with, "We feared you would say that. We believe you were recently under psychic influence, and your memories of the event may have been telepathically altered." So with that stated, Storm then went on to say, "I am immune to telepathy. We long discovered, my friends. Gambit and Jubilee are immune to telepathy because of the latent energy that's always surging through their bodies and brains. I endeavor to always maintain the same to keep myself immune to telepathic control." To that, the agent asked, "Do I have your permission to examine this hypothesis of yours?" And with a touch of his hand, Storm answered with, "You may." With that stated, the agent continued to say, "I'm sorry for taking up so much of your time. The telepathy simulation machine is right next door. The procedure would only take 5 minutes." But Storm was too smart to fall for his trick as she interrupted the agent and said, "None of this is real following the moment you touched my hand." And as the electricity flooded through the air, Storm said, "Greater beings than you have tried to invade my mind and failed." So with the cat out of the bag, the agent went on to laugh and said, "So you harbored the fugitive Charles and assisted his escape off-world of your own free will? What did you think was going to happen? The streets of Cairo all over again? There are consequences for one's actions in the adult world, in America, my America. Storm, you are under arrest for obstruction of justice. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." And with that said, this issue of Storm comes to an end. Now down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.